87% of realtors get into the business and get out of the business in 2 years. That doesn't exist in our world.
We have massive visions around growing our businesses, and we are always looking to add talent to our world. We do everything in our power to ensure the people we surround ourselves with defy the odds, get into production, and build massive lives for themselves.
If you are a realtor looking to get into the business, we have a blueprint for success.
With locations all across Canada, reach out to us. Let's talk about partnership and opportunities. We are looking forward to it.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Sales Feast Podcast. We're here with a very special guest, Michael McDougall. He's someone I've known for a few years. I actually met him at a big real estate conference in Canada a couple of years ago, and he's someone I respected and heard a lot about over the years. Mike, you don't know this, but one of my best friends, he lives in Oshawa. Before I even got in the business, he would always talk about this Michael McDougall guy when he knew I was thinking about getting in the business. Yeah. It's like, I see this guy everywhere, so you should get in and model yourself after him. It was a few years after that I finally got to meet you and learn what you're all about. Thank you so much for joining us today.
It's a cool story. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, no, you're pretty big deal in your market, and pretty big deal in Canada for that matter. Yeah, so
thanks, man.
Super grateful to have you here. So for anyone listening, can you shed some light on your story? I know you've been in the business for a while. When did you get in? How did you start? And how have you grown over the course of the last decade or so?
Yeah, so there was no breadcrumbs for me when I got into this business. I didn't follow suit of a relative, a parent. So it was sort of a shock, I think, to everybody when I was, going to pursue real estate at the age of 23. So that was in 2007. Is when I started. So, sort of just, was this eager kid, ready to learn and sort of what I thought, take on the business. And my biggest passion right away was sort of changing the way business was done in real estate, changing more about branding an agent opposed to, a big umbrella company. So that's why Keller Williams for me was an awesome fit right away. And I was just told, actually, I'm the longest standing Keller Williams agent in Durham Region right now, because the renowned Keller Williams days. So we just meshed really well because, again, I was into just wanting to brand myself, and that's just sort of how it began. From that day, my wife, at the time, my girlfriend really just pushed me into it because I kept talking about getting into real estate. So she was just a big supporter of mine on pushing me into it. Cause you know how it is, right? People say they want to get into real estate and there's all that negative thoughts around, oh, what are you going to do when it doesn't work out? So she was really that soundboard for me to push me into it. So, one of those things where it's just, I just really took to education really well, right? When I started going to, family reunion conferences, anything that was at my fingertips to the willing to learn. I just would go to those classes. So that's just, I wanted to be over prepared, right? I was 23 going up against people who've been in the business for 23 years. So it's why are they going to choose this young kid? So it was being over prepared to the point where scripting became something I was just doing daily. And it really just panned out. And I think it just shows too, when you're willing to work and outwork everyone around you, you can find success pretty quickly.
And when you got into the business, did you start out on your own or did you join a team?
Yeah, I started out on my own, and really the biggest thing that I started doing was just sort of that, that farming marketing, where I was just trying to scatter my brand to as many houses as possible right away. And it started off very small, right? Because I had no budget. I was borrowing money from my wife's credit card at the time. I got into the business with a $10,000 loan from TD, right? And as a realtor, how quick you spend that when everyone's coming at you, selling you pens with your names on it or notepads. You're like, oh yeah, I need all this. All of a sudden you're like, wow, I spent that 10K really quick. So then it was like, hey, Becky, what's your credit card number? I need it to market this home. So started off with a really small neighborhood of homes that I was just marketing, right? Knocking on doors, mailing out to. And then as it started working and developing into business, I just kept mimicking that and growing that, from 250 homes to 10,000 homes, fairly quickly. So, it's that old school, habits that I just got into that worked well for me then. And like, I started using, like, Instagram wasn't even around yet. I started using Facebook right away, to the point where I had people in the industry calling me saying, I don't think it's professional that you're putting, confidential information on Facebook. And because no one was doing that in Durham Region yet. And I was sort of in the mindset of, this is going to be the way things are going to be soon. So I'd rather get ahead of it. And I used Facebook as like my resume. So people every day that didn't either know me or knew I was in real estate, they saw that I was busy actively working in real estate. So that was a huge turning point for my business with social media. Before, I got into it really before anyone in this area was doing it.
Yeah. Okay. I think, the way in which you started sounds very familiar to me, and it's similar to the way most people get started. It sounds like it's very much boots on the ground, banging on doors, getting out in the community and meeting people. I get a lot of agents coming to me saying that they want to farm an area. And in their minds, often what that means is, I would like you, Mike, to pay for flyers and send them out, and hopefully the phone rings at some point in the future. What does farming actually look like when it's done properly?
Farming to me is not just flyering a neighborhood with your brand, but it's about getting those people to understand your personal brand. So when we looked at a farming area, we set up a whole strategic plan around it. There was, the flyers, there was the door knocking, there was the community Facebook page, there was the cold calling. So we weren't just relying on, flyers. Like, man, that's going to take you like 3 years to start seeing a return from like flyering neighborhoods. So I didn't have that time to wait, right? I was like, I got to start making money now. So really it was just more like, how much can we do around this area where they're not going to forget my brand? And so then it started into another pillar was community events around it as well. I did a movie in the park that had 2,000 people at it. And at the time I couldn't afford it, but I did it because I was like, I know I need to do these huge impactful events because other people are doing flyers. So what can I do that stands out? And then people get to know who you are, right? They start following you. They start seeing your personal side, right? They start seeing like how you are. And people want to work with people that are attracted to as individuals that they can build engagement with. So farming to me is much more than just, sending flyers out. It's an entire like strategy about how are you going to hit this neighborhood and how are they going to remember you?
Yeah. So if you break it down in a nutshell, it sounds like it's really 4 pillars. It is flyers. That's part of it. Cold calling, door knocking, and community events.
Community events, right? Community Facebook page, community events. Yeah.
Okay. And do you have a system in place or a recommendation for new agents looking to farm an area? How frequently should they be calling the area? Should they be banging on doors?
Well, in my opinion, like from when I was doing, when I started doing that farming, everyone said, hey, it's a 3-year return by doing flyers once a month. So I said, okay, well, why don't I do this twice a month and cut that in half? Because really it's all about how many times they're seeing your brand. So if I can double up there, see my brand twice a month instead of once a month, hopefully I can cut that into a 1.5 years. And then if I'm door knocking, right, and they're going to see me door knocking twice a year, right, every 6 months, I'll probably hit that house. Then that's another touch, right? You get a listing in there, another mail out, right, which is maybe that 3rd mail out that month of a just list. So it was more about breaking the numbers down into how can I see a return within my 1st year instead of waiting 3 years. And that just came to like, you're just going to be working more, putting more hours into it, and you're dedicated on like that was my focus on growing that farm. So someone listening that's like starting out on a farm, break it down, first start very small, right? I started with 500 homes because I didn't have the budget to go bigger, but it's also easier to hit those 500 homes quicker, right? And more repeatedly. So I'd say just break down the numbers, what you're able to do, how you're able to cold call it, door knock it, flyer it, community events in and around it.
And sorry, Anna, you go ahead. I know I'm peppering him with questions.
Taking over here.
Mike's hogging this podcast right now.
He's fully hogging the podcast.
I'm curious. I have a big bill I may or may not be paying.
He just turned Anna's mic off.
related to farming. So I want to know how to do it properly if I'm going to spend the money on it.
No, you're getting lots of education out of this. That's good.
Yeah.
Well, what I was going to ask, I don't know if you had another question, Mike, but
I did, but you go ahead.
All right. Well, we'll take turns. Mike, for you, obviously you started more boots on the ground, kind of doing those activities yourself. Obviously you've grown now a big brand and a great team. What does your lead gen look like now? What does it look like for your team members as well?
Yeah, so our lead gen now, we have a third party company now that's actually filtering the leads that we're bringing in. So I don't pay for online leads right now. Maybe one day that will happen, but right now with our social media platforms, the amount of listings we get, we're able to obtain enough leads through our social ads that are poured really into a funnel where a third party is now qualifying those leads. And then they get sent out to my agents. So it's only myself and 2 other agents and then 3 admins. So we have a small team. So the lead gen really now is, we call those hot leads when they're sent back to us. So the agent's job from there is to set them up on a campaign and recruit them into an appointment, right? So we already know that they're a real person because they've already been filtered. We already got where they want to buy, what they want to do. So now our job now is to just keep that relationship going with them. It might still be a year to 18 months before they actually buy or sell, but that's our job now, is just every day come in the office, keep the relationships going with the people that need our assistance. One guy on my team is still door knocking 3 days a week right now. So we're still doing definitely old school habits. We're still flyering right now to keep our brand out there. We're in a situation right now, and other agents might find value in this, that like our market share is going to change in Durham. We have a massive population from the Toronto area west of us that are all working here. So when new people arrive in this area, and I went through this in 2017, when people arrive here, they don't know who Michael McDougall is, right? They don't know my brand. So there's a big bulk of the new population that don't know who I am. If I don't keep up with my marketing, farming, those habits, my market share will start disappearing. And I know this from numbers from 4 years ago. So that's our job, is to keep our market share strong, keep up with the lead gen. We're just about building relationships, right? That's what we're doing.
And is farming still kind of your primary source of business, or where do you attribute most of your transactions from?
No, our database it's near 70% of our business is our past clients, our database. So our farming is actually pretty small now. It was a bigger portion when I was newer. That's sort of what you want, right? Because you can build that database up, but you slowly will shift, because we do a really good job at touching and keeping in touch with our database through, client events, video emails every Friday. They follow most of us on social too, but we treat our clients like gold, right? Because they are our brand ambassadors at the end of the day. That we have awesome turnouts at our client events, right? They look forward to them. So that's our biggest bulk of where our business comes from.
And yeah, I have a couple questions for you. So it sounds like you're hiring almost like an ISA company. Is that correct?
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, that would exactly what it is. They get our leads from our website, social posts, and they're on the phones calling. What I found, and people are going to agree or disagree, but what I found with my agents, because I don't have a massive team, we were getting way too many leads. And what happens, I find an agent can't handle really any more than to do a really good job at follow-up and be like dedicated to trying to convert 20 to 30 leads a month, in my opinion. Like that's what they can handle. I started, we looked at the charts last year, and one of my agents had 3,000 leads given to him. And it became a mess. No, not converting. Notes were a mess because it's too much, right? Because we had a big social presence with our ads, and we do, a fair amount of listings. So we were getting a huge amount of leads off those. So I try to take that job away from them, not to try and build a habit you can't follow up, but I try to just take one step away of let's just get another company to make sure there's a heartbeat there, right? And that there is a motivation there, and then send it off to you guys.
Okay. And what company is it that you've been using, and are you happy with them?
Yeah, Conversion Monster is the company that we're using right now. And again, this This program just started 3 months ago. So there's not enough data to let you guys know. I mean, next time I talk to you guys, it might be like, yeah, it didn't work out. Or it might be like, hey, this is great. There's definitely calls coming in, relationships being built. So far it's on the right path. But I mean, I think the first year we'll know if this is something that we'll keep up with.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And yeah, something else I wanted to touch on, and then I'll give you a question after that, and I apologize.
All right, thanks.
Normally,
and when I'm answering questions, just cut me off because I will babble on, guys. You've already noticed it, obviously. So just cut me off when I start going off on something that doesn't have anything to do with your question.
Yeah.
No, this is great.
Normally our podcasts are in the afternoon, and I'm a morning person. I'm more, you can probably tell, I'm more energetic in the morning.
I can't do, when you guys send me the times, they're all afternoon times. I'm like, yeah, no, I cannot do afternoon podcasts. I'll be asleep.
I'm the same way. Normally it's Anna doing all the talking and I'm quiet, but yeah, book it in the morning and you get me chatting.
You're amped up.
Yeah. So talk to me about the client events. That's something we're moving towards. We honestly haven't done a great job of it in the past, but we do see value in it. I think it's almost necessary as we move into the future. I know you just had a big one.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've had client events where we did community events that were 2,000 people there. I don't know if I'd do that again because that actually was hectic. We really needed like security there because it just got so big. But then we've done our actual VIP client events where we've had, 300 people at our office. So I got a standalone office in the north end of Oshawa. And our client events have been anything from pictures with Santa, and like we always bring in some reindeer in the backyard, hot chocolate. We've done Christmas markets. So I really support a lot of community, small businesses in our community. So we've had an entire Christmas market set up in our parking lot with Santa, as reindeer, events like that. We just did an awesome Halloween event where we did a spooky trail through the backyard, and one of my clients who does a lot of production stuff with Halloween stuff did the whole setup. So that was amazing. I'm a big believer in like giving back to the community. So it's always usually around some sort of a fundraiser. So we just raised $5,000 for the turkey drive that I've been doing for over a decade now. This year we'll feed 2,200 families Christmas dinner. And we're got to raise about $83,000 for that to happen, which we will do. So like big events like that, right? Like we usually did 4 a year or 3 to 4 a year. So it's a lot of work. My office manager, Ashley, is a rock star at it. She's just really good. And she's got good systems now where it's just sort of dialed down. But honestly, it's a chance to see your client face to face again, something to do with their kids. I got young kids, right? So it's usually all around, usually something to do with younger kids. And, just a way to bring people out. And the Halloween one we just did was our first one since COVID. And we were definitely iffy on, hey, should we do this? It's all outdoors, so it's as safe as possible, but will people show up? And like I said, it was pouring rain. The lineup was down the street to an intersection. People were getting poured on in rain and they still showed up, 300 people. So it was pretty awesome to see.
I love that. Now, can we talk about your Ted Lasso costume for a second? Because that was amazing. Like I scrolled through my feed and I saw it pop up. I was like, that is Ted Lasso, and that is Coach Beard. I was like, whoa. But what I'm bringing that back to, hold on, I have a whole point here. Like you tend to bring humor and like authenticity to your social media in a way that I don't see a lot of people doing. What do you accredit that to, or how do you, I guess, become more intentional about that?
Honestly, I think like that's just a huge part of my personality. Like I guess I'm a bit of a fun guy, as Kawhi Leonard would say. But I think I just, I love the whole real estate and humor. I do it definitely on a cleaner level. There's people doing it, on another scale. But I mean, at the end of the day, I know who my database is. I know who my clients are. So I keep it clean. But yeah, that's just a huge part of who I am. Like I love humor. I think it brings like a different side to everything. The Ted Lasso thing was just like my buddy. I was more impressed with the Coach Beard. Like he's one of my best friends that was Coach Beard.
On
and I'm
point.
Like, it's insane. And my wife and I were watching the show. We love the show. And she's like, oh my gosh, Brian looks exactly like Coach Beard. And I was like, I'm going as Ted Lasso. He's going as Coach Beard for Halloween. Like it's done. That's the decision we're making. So I don't know if you guys can see it there. But yeah,
it's perfect. We're gonna have to link your Instagram. That's so
yeah,
good.
Yeah, it turned out well.
Because you've dressed up as what's his face? What's Ted Lasso's like real name? I'm forgetting his name.
Oh,
Jason Sudeikis.
Jason
Right? You've dressed up as him before in The Hangover too, if I remember correctly.
So that's Ed Helms. Everyone thinks it's the same guy.
Oh,
that's Ed Helms is The Hangover.
Right. You're right. You're right.
And yeah, those two guys, I always get those two guys. Like, they're like, you look like, everyone's always like, oh, you look like the guy from The Hangover. I'm like, oh yeah, Bradley Cooper, right? Like, yeah, I know. And they're like, no. The guy with the missing tooth and the tattoo on his face. I'm like, oh yeah, Ed Helms. So I get Ed Helms or Jason Sudeikis all the time. So I've gone as, both of them now for Halloween. Both of them blew up. People loved it. It was awesome. It's fun. But yeah, like real estate to me, like it's fun when it has a humor side to it, right? And we keep everything super professional still, but it's just so fun when you can throw that stuff in. Just brings a whole new aspect to the job.
Well, it also allows people to kind of get to know your other side, not just the professional side, right?
Totally. Yeah. I want them to know like that's who I am. And to me, you attract people, that are so like-minded like you. So I love when I have clients that are, somewhat like myself. It just makes it, a fun time to work with them and represent them.
Love it. Now, so talk to us about your office, because you guys transformed a really old building into your office. And I know you guys do a lot of social media promotion, as well as you guys take a lot of great pictures as you're building your brand. What's the importance of that? Like, tell me a little bit about that transformation, as well as your brand itself.
Yeah, in 2015, like it was always a goal of mine to have, my own office, run my team out of it. Because at the point where you start growing, you start, becoming too big for typically some commercial spaces and what offices, they allow you to have. So part of it was the investment opportunity for myself and my family on, hey, let's buy a building. And this will be a great, investment in the future to lease it back when, real estate and myself have parted ways. So that was the big part about it in 2015. But buying the oldest house in Oshawa, 1835 build, definitely comes with challenges. I wish now that I looked back, I had the whole thing vlogged, because it would have made a really good show. But yeah, it was one of those things where I was like, you know what, this is sort of a really well-known building. It was literally falling apart. So we revived it. We're super happy to be here. It's on a really, really busy street. There's like 30 to 40,000 cars that pass it a day. So for branding, it's amazing. It was definitely worth it in the end, even though we went through lots of challenges. I found out I was having twins that same year that we were renovating. So it was just like, work mode, got to work super hard to pay for everything. So it was awesome. We're here now, and we still have lots of room to grow within it. We've had awesome realtor events too. Like some of the offices from the beaches came down here. We had 50 people back there, and we did a wicked panel. So, I mean, there's way more opportunities you have when you have your own space like this, right? With client events and other events. It's just really nice to be able to do that. Social media is just like it's always been like a passion of mine. It's not something that I just do because it's like, oh, you got to do it. Like, I love using social media as a platform. The pictures we take, like, that's just, I want people to understand like that's our brand, right? And I feel like when they see really nice quality photos, not only of the team, but anything else that we do, I feel like that's a good glimpse into like what you can expect when you work with us. That everything's top notch, everything is like magazine worthy, and that's just sort of what our brand is. I'd say the downfall though, and you got to be careful, is like a lot of people will think, oh, they don't want my listing, or they won't want to represent my purchase because I'm in the lower tier price range. So we try and make it clear. It's just, you don't know how much business you've lost because you don't know, those people never came to you. So we try and make it clear that like, we aren't into representing a certain level of value. We're into representing like you on your journey, whether that is a $300,000 condo or a $3 million, luxury home. It doesn't matter. Like, it's not, I don't look at the number. I look at like helping people and assisting people. Right. So we want them obviously to understand that's how professional we are with our brand on social media, but like, yeah, we're into helping everybody. Right. But yeah, social media is just another platform, right, to just speak to people.
That reminds me of a conversation we recently had with John Van Geese from Waterdown. So a couple of years ago, he changed up all his branding and his clients seemed to disappear. And shortly thereafter, he got a new pool of clients. His price point skyrocketed.
Totally.
What can someone do to, like, when they do a rebrand like that, to ensure the clients that they used to deal with are still made to feel welcome?
I think it's like, I mean, that's an awesome question, because it is hard, because it's so easy to change the perception on social so quickly, right? Of like, oh, he doesn't want to do that type of real estate anymore. He's going this way. So I think it's just keeping a really broad range of content out there, right? Because if you are going to go luxury, then all your content's going to be luxury, with staging, with photos, with the homes you're selling, with your style, your fashion. So you can change it. I could change that literally within a year, because I've done things, I've tested things before on social, and people notice, like they really do notice. So I think it's just like keeping a more broad group of content. And it's really easy to know with social, because you can see who your demographics are. You can see who's following you, right? Who's liking your stuff. So I think take a look at that, really look into the dashboard of like who's following you, who's your number one followers. Right now, I know it's the ages from 35 to 45 women. Like that's who mainly follows our team, right? So it's like, okay, what do we need to do to make sure we're building engagement with them, right? I don't want to post things that they are not interested in, or they're going to fall off. So I think it's really just, it's more like the back end work you need to do, and the research that you and your team should do on, that's the first thing, is who are your followers? And then go from like, if you want to build into other followers, then make sure you're building into their interests. I don't know if that answered it, but I think it's just like, you need to know who's following you to begin with.
Like who's your demographic? Yeah, for sure.
And who you're marketing to begin with, right? And then if you want to change that up, or make sure you stay within that group, make sure you're just adding content that they relate to.
Now, going into 2022, what's the theme for your business next year? Have you guys started business planning?
Yeah, we have. We started actually a couple of weeks ago. So the theme is just building off of what we are already doing, and then adding anything new that we feel like makes sense and that's trending, that's going to work. So it's really just upping our numbers from what's already working right now. And so that just means doubling down, right? Like knowing, hey, example, right? 10 leads came from door knocking. Okay, how many homes did you door knock, right? Like to get those 10 leads. So like now we got to double it up. If your goal, Bailey on my team, if his goal is 20 deals from door knocking, all right, man, this is what we got to do, right? Maybe it's your scripting's got to be tweaked. So it's honestly it's actually pretty simple when you really look at like how to create more business. It's what is working already. Let's not try and reinvent anything that we don't need to. How can we actually dial it down and be more intentional on those things that are already working?
Mm-hmm.
So for like myself, my goal is to go on 200 CMAs this year. Nice. I don't have a goal next year as of yet, because we're still in the middle of planning it, but it'll just be like, what has worked this year? I'm at 161 right now, so I'm a little behind right now, but like what has worked to get, to this number? What do we have to do now to, increase it, right? How do we bring more awareness to our team? And I'll say, like, and I'm being super transparent and honest, the biggest challenge I have right now is the amount of realtors that have come into our area that weren't here last year. So now it's like, and I think I love challenges because I love overcoming them. So now I just got to figure out, how do I overcome that?
How do you hold your market share, right?
Yeah, 100%.
All right, awesome. And obviously in building your brand in your current market, you've been in Oshawa your whole life. Is that right?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Oshawa. So, I mean, I do all of Durham Region, but 60 to 70% of our business comes from Oshawa. I think it's just, we're big supporters of the community here. Lived here my whole life. People know that. So I think people do value, I really, really push local, right? Like buy, shop local, support local. We support huge businesses. We do a lot of collabs with businesses to build their brands and help them out when they're getting started. And we are recognized as huge community supporters. So I think, anyone who's listening that is from a certain area, right, that they're working in. I think that's a huge thing you can do, is just get involved with your community. Like, and it doesn't mean you got to be out there spending money to support people. It's just, even with social now, just supporting people through social is so easy, right? And just, showing up, being present, letting them know that you can help them in any way you can by using your platform, because it comes back. It all comes back to you.
If you could go back to that 23-year-old Michael and tell him, like, hey, do this differently, what would you tell him? Like, what would you have done differently if you could go back?
I'd probably tell him to wear a more fitted suit, because my suit was probably like 5 sizes too big for me. Honestly, I would tell him to hire an assistant right away. I went way too long without admin support, and I definitely know that I could have gained more ground by leveraging admin. And I know it would have been one of those things where it would have been like most people, like, I can't afford it, but it's like, it's like Ben Kinney said when he first started out, he had 6 months, right, that he could pay an assistant for. And if it didn't work out, it's like she was gone. And if it worked out, then things were going well. And I think that's the risk you need to take, is sometimes there's no reward without it, right? And it's like, I would have just hired someone, budgeted for it, and it would have worked. Like, I'm one of those people that, like, when I'm under the gun, I make it work, and I would have made it work. So I think I would have been a little further ahead earlier on if I had admin support. So I tell anyone who's starting out, and they always look at me really weird because they think I'm too new. I was like, hire an assistant, hire support right away. Make a list of things you don't need to do. Focus on what you do need to do to build a business now. That person will double your business easily.
That's so true. MREA says that's what to do, but it doesn't seem like a whole lot of people actually do it.
No, and it's the fear, right? It's the fear that we all have, right? And I even know now there's more steps I need to take now. And it's the fear that holds you back, and you get comfortable, right? You're comfortable with where you are, but it's like, you just don't grow as an individual unless you take those huge steps, not those little steps, but those big steps.
Yeah. I think one easy way to change your mindset around it is, say you're paying your assistant 50, 60 grand a year, whatever it may be. You're not committed to 60 grand. You're committed to a certain amount over the first 30, 60, 90 days. Yeah, but I totally agree with you.
Dial it back, make it a little more simple. You're right. People look at that big number and it's like, oh, I can't. But it's like, look at just look at it as a week, right? I gotta pay them this much a week. I gotta get past this week. So it's like, and it's crazy what it does to you when you are under pressure like that. It's amazing how much more productive you'll be. Like the year I bought this office, found out I was having twins, it was me and one other agent. And we absolutely destroyed it because I was under pressure to, I had a lot of responsibility coming my way. So it's like, it was go time, right? I was like, we already had one kid. He was, going to be 2 by the time we had the twins. And it was like, I got to make this work. I've committed to the building. I'm committed to growing as an individual. I'm going to be committed to being an amazing father. I didn't grow up with one. So I was like, that was a huge goal of mine. It's like, I'm committed to being an amazing dad and being present. And so it was just like, I'm making this work. And it was an unbelievable year. I don't remember it, to be honest with you, but it was an unbelievable year. We were number 1 in Canada for a team that year. And it was just focused, right? Just focused on the goal.
We always talk about the pain of discipline versus the pain of disappointment. And I think when it comes down to it, if you have that pressure, if you have nothing behind you and you're not looking back and you're just moving forward, you have to make it happen, right?
100%. Yeah.
No,
you're totally
right. We always leave everyone with the same question, really. So we'll wrap it up with that. So final question is, who do you know that we should have on this podcast?
Oh my gosh. I don't know everyone you guys have had on.
Well, name someone and we can let you know if we've had them or not.
I'm assuming you guys had, I think it's Dylan Suter. I think do you guys just have him on though, right?
Yeah, we just had him on.
Yeah. I've been impressed with what he's been able to accomplish in a short period of time. Honestly, so many of the younger agents right now, like that are just like super impressive. And I wish I had like that mindset, at an earlier age. I'm 38 now. And there's like, I'm in no way am I old, but I'm not young anymore. And so like, it's inspiring seeing some of these people coming up, like, seeing what Sandy's accomplishing, what you guys are accomplishing. I'm terrible with names, man. So I'm not going to throw out a name, but maybe I'll text you guys a name. But there's just so much talent out there right now. Like, honestly, like from anything I've seen in 15 years of selling real estate, the talent out there right now is amazing. And I think there's so many different ways of doing real estate now, which that's the cool part. There's a way of selling real estate. I was at a virtual conference yesterday, and there's a guy who honestly shows up every day in like track pants and a hoodie, and he's just a tech guy, and his team's at 600 ends this year. And like, that to me is like, okay, that's not who I am, but that's unbelievable that you can sell real estate with that model. Like, I'm just super impressed by so many different, pillars out there, it's so awesome, right? Because that means that really means there's something for everybody, right? You don't have to be like it used to be like you had to be such a people person, right? And dress a certain way and do business a certain way. And it's really like, it's pretty broad out there now. I'll think of some names and send it to you guys.
Yeah, no worries. I think you're right. It's a lot more now about being authentic and how you show your personality, especially with social media being such a big part of our lives, right?
Yeah. But I will say, because I do still tell people, like, especially that day that Facebook and Instagram went down like 2 weeks ago, right? And like, we still booked like 6 CMAs that day because we still do old school habits. And I've told people, like, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Like, I'm a huge believer in social media marketing as well, but it's like, you don't control that. At the end of the day, that is not your platform. Someone else pushes a button every day and makes that go. Mm-hmm. So not just social media, but anything that you don't control, make sure you always have a backup plan. Because if for some reason, and platforms change all the time. If some reason something changed in a huge way that made it harder for you to do business, that's going to affect your bottom end like huge that year. So I just think like having your hands in a lot of things opposed to just one thing will benefit you in the long run.
Amazing. Well, thanks so much, Michael, for coming on board today. It was such a pleasure speaking with you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Okay, have an awesome day.